Hey everybody, Dubhead Spartan here, and welcome to the 1.01 test server. We're going to be taking an in-depth look at the entirety of the new Italian line, as I have done for lines in the past, such as the Czech line. About, over a year ago, I think it was that I did that video. But I've got all the tanks here with the default ammo loadout. No boosters or anything have been applied. So you can see the base stats and sort of infer what the adjusted stats would be with equipment, everything. And of course the crew is completely default, 100%. So, go to, well of course nobody really gives too much of a damn about the low tiers, but as we might have figured, we have another Renault FT copy from the Italians here with Fiat 3000. Not too much to see here. We go to the research tree. We've got a 37 mil and another 37 mil. Second one is obviously an improvement over the first. There's not much else to say about it, aside from the fact that it's pretty dang cute among other FT, or at least among the other tanks in the tree, shall we say. I might play like maybe 2 battles in this thing, just to kind of screw around with it once it finally comes out. Because why not, you know? It's fun to kick some low tier stuff. That's what the little guy looks like. Look at how cute that is. Oh god. And then you go up to this pokey looking thing. Long metal stick. Yeah, so there's your tier 1. Looking easy. We have 2 tier 2 tanks. We have the L640 here. With its what is this? That's a 20 mil, right? Yep. That's a 20 mil autocannon. And it also has the option of using a 37 mil from the tier 1, which is also very easily viable gun at this tier, of course. They have about the same amount of penetration, but obviously this is, clip damage, this is regular single shot. Still 2 crew members, so you might actually get all your crew knocked out in one hit and not lose all your health. Moving along to the other tier 2 here. A little bigger, a little stockier. It's a medium tank instead of a light tank, so you sort of got to expect that. You got 4 crew members in this one, so you also have more health, of course. Keep in mind, none of these tanks really have much armor. That's worthwhile, at least. Oh wait, no. Well, I take that back. The M1441 here has actually some relatively effective armor for the tier. But the L640, it's got 30 at the front, but it's completely flat. So unless you're facing something with a non-fully upgraded, shitty autocannon, this tank is not going to bounce much of anything. This tank, on the other hand, may very well bounce some shots. It looks sort of like an M2 medium for the American tree. Just the sort of design of it, with the tracks and the shape of the hull and everything from the side. This tank gets a selection of 2 different guns, the Tier 1's gun, of course, and a 47 mil. It's a respectable gun. Goes up in DPM and alpha damage and pen and everything, basically. That's to be expected. It does have heat as premium. Not that many people care because it's a Tier 2. So, moving along swiftly, that's the second time I've said that. We have the M1542. This is basically an upgraded variant of the M1441 here, as we can see. Still 4 crew members. The guns, it has the 47 mil from the tier 2, but then it has an upgraded version, which does more damage. Or no, does the same amount of damage, excuse me, but has more penetration, which is suitable for the tier. That's actually a very respectable amount of pen. I don't know if you'll have to fire premium at like a Panzer B2 in this tank. I'm not positive. you probably will at some angles, but at other angles you might not actually have to load it premium to pen that tier 4 tank. But again, still does get heat as premium, which I find very interesting for a low tier tank. I find it very interesting that they decided heat was a premium shell for these tanks. So again, here's survivability. It went up a little bit. I believe this 45 here was 30 before, so it's still not enough armor to really reliably block much of anything aside from low pen autocannons. The mobility for all the low tiers, generally speaking, all 4 of these tanks, it's relatively average. That's really why I sort of gloss over it. It's what you would expect with this low tier. There's not much to really cover about it. It's average, you know. And then so there's your low tier shit. That's not really terribly interesting, but you know, worth taking a small look at as we've done. We go to the tier 4, and this is where the sort of look or appearance of the entire line sort of starts to take shape. It's the shape of the tank getting more flat and long instead of this kind of stockier build on the front like this. Sort of starts to become longer with the same amount of height. Still 4 crew members, so you can transfer your crew up easily, but I know you're not probably continuing to retrain it completely because that costs gold, as we know. So this is a selection of 3 different guns, a 47, a 75, and a 75. This one, of course, slightly better than this one because of reasons. Probably made 1932, this one 1934, if I had to guess. Best gun is this, of course, but you do lose rate of fire for an extra 5mm of pen. And your dispersion and aiming time barely changes, so it may actually be worth going for this gun instead of this one as your top gun. Let's see what that looks like. There you go. That's probably the gun you want to be using on this if you're grinding it. Because for an extra 90 or an extra 5mm of pen and an extra 10mm of premium and HE pen, I'm not sure if it's necessarily worth it to lose. What is that? It's like 75 DPM right there. I mean, it's not it's not a big difference, but it's a difference that I will look at nonetheless. So, consistent with all the other tiers, we do still have heat as your premium ammo. Excuse me. Yeah, but that's to be expected. Nothing's changed about that yet. There's your whole armor right there. 50, 40, 40, 50, 40, 40. That's all. That's respectable for a tier 4 medium. That's average. It's not like pennable by a lot of different types of HE, but it's certainly pennable. I would actually like to point out now that having this 70mm of high explosive pen could actually be a really nice medium. Because if you think about it, at lower tiers, the amount of armor on some of these machines, like this thing has 50 at the front and 40 at the sides. There are some HE shells that definitely would not be able to pen that. But this thing has 70mm of high explosive pen. So it might not be able to go through this simply because of the angle it's at, but if it finds a flat surface, it's going to go right through. That could be interesting. Your mobility, again, average. There's your specific power. There's your top speed. It's generally the same kind of proportionality to the rest of the tier 4 mediums. It's not terribly special, good or bad. We go to tier 5. It's an upgrade of the previous tank before. It's like this. It's like the P2640 went to McDonald's and had too many Big Macs on its trip to the U.S. That's what happened here. Okay. You get your 4 crew members still, and it looks like your 4 crew member thing will go all the way to tier 10, so I'm not going to bother bringing that up again, unless I see something different. You have a choice of 3 guns. You have 3 75 mils. Each one goes up of about 10mm of penetration every single time, but your rate of fire doesn't actually change, which is nice. Your penetration the high explosive rounds does go down to 38 here instead of this nice 70 that we had here before. So it might be worth it to stick with one of these just for that, but again, this is at tier 5 now, so it may not actually be worth it anymore. I haven't decided yet for myself. There's your guns, your mobility, again, your specific power actually went down because the weight went up, but the horsepower didn't really. You do actually have 80 millimeters of frontal armor now. So if you're versing same or lower tier opponents and they don't have the fully upgraded gun on their tank, they may actually be bouncing off this front plate right here. If I had to guess, this is probably about 100 millimeters of effective armor right here. So, do what you like with it, you know. Let's see how it goes. Your P43 BIS. This is where the shape of the line really starts to looking like the higher tiers. Because you go kind of stocky, you get a little flatter here, a little flatter here, but then it's just flat. You know what I mean? Now that does not mean that it loses a lot of gun depression. That's something I should go over here. These tanks do actually have decent values of gun depression. There's -10. The tier 2 had -12. We go here. It's -10, -10, -10. Get to tier 6, it goes down to -7, but that's not a humongous drop. But one of the things I do want to point out about this tier 6 tank is it has a 90 mil gun with 140 pen, 180 premium APCR pen, at 240 alpha damage, which is very interesting. I'm excited to see how this thing works out. You know, you see a lot of tier 6 tanks that have your 75 mil guns, your Cromwell. That's not specifically a 75, but it's approximately the same caliber, I believe, if it's not 75. You have your 85 mil on the Russians. There's only a handful of tanks that have an 88 mil or a 90 mil like this, where it has over 200 alpha damage. So that should be fun to actually work with. Your stock gun is a 75 though, with less pen, less alpha damage. Your DPM, even your DPM is worse on this tank, but it does have slightly better accuracy and aiming time. But when you have this amount of extra alpha damage, you're not going to be worrying about that when you upgrade. Your armor is actually about the same. So, when at tier 6 with that amount of armor, you're going to start getting penned by things easily. It's not going to matter as much. Your mobility, again, fairly average. Your engine power went up as long as with your weight. So now your specific power is over 15. So it's a marginal increase. Yeah, there's your tier 6. I don't see this really being used competitively at tier 6. You could probably get away with using one, but I'm not sure it'll be able to keep up with the pack, as they say, given the mobility of it. So if you were to use this, you'd have to play a heavier lineup, I would say. That's all I'm going to say on that subject. Your P43 TER. This is your P43 BIS, this is your P43 TER. I don't know if I should say that TER or TER or what, but that's what I'm going to call it. This tank, similarly to its tier 6 brother, has an unusually large caliber for its tier, or at least I believe it does. Oh no, it's still a 90 mil. What am I saying? It's got 165 base pen, 195 premium pen, which again is APCR now, 240 standard alpha damage, of course, on both rounds, of course. But so this is your gun from tier 6. This is your tier 7 gun. You do actually lose DPM from here to here, about 120 of it, right? 1920, yeah, 120 damage per minute loss. But your penetration goes up by 25. So I believe for a tier 7, that is worth it. Now, given the penetration of 165, I see a lot of people using a PCR on this tank, especially when they're facing things that are not tier 7 or below. So I could see a lot of gold spam coming out of this gun right here. What does the other one look like? Just out of curiosity. Oh, it's just shorter. Okay, I hadn't seen it. Yeah, there's your tier 7. There's your whole armor. It does go up to 100. Again, it's not going to absorb too terribly much. This front plate is probably about 130 if I had to guess. So if you get like tier 5s and 6s shooting at you, they might bounce the occasional round, especially if you angle it, but I would never count on it for anything. Your mobility has gone up. You now have a specific power of 1944. Well, your engine power is up to 700 horsepower, so that's why it's almost up to 20 on the specific power to weight ratio here. That's always nice to have. It's just the extra mobility, you know? But, yeah, so you still have your 9-7 gun depression, of course. Everything else about this tank is pretty much standard for a tier 7 medium. Now, tier 8 with the P44 Pantura, right? This is where the new reloading mechanism comes into play. These are both auto reloading guns actually. It takes the tier 7 gun as the stock gun, but it's auto reloading. And the tier 8 gun, of course, is also auto reloading. So what this basically means, for those of you who haven't heard about this, so here's your 3 things. Your magazine, all 3 shells take 27.8 seconds to load. To load the next shell, it takes 2.5 seconds, and there's 3 shells in the magazine. However, if you look here, time for auto reloading 1 shell. Where they get this 27 from is from up here. Each shell takes a different amount of time to load into the gun, and you can fire each shell separately. So let's say you fire your 1 shot, right? You fire a shot. That shell, with standard everything, will take 8 seconds to reload. So you can play it like a single shot tank that has an 8-second reload without boosters. But let's say that you fire that first shell and fire a second shell. That second shell will take 10 seconds to reload into the chamber. Then it will start reloading the first shell for another 8 seconds, for a total of 18 seconds. Now, if you fire the third one, you can infer what happens. It reloads the first one in 11 seconds, then reloads another shell in 10, and then your magazine is full after another 8 seconds. Right? So that's 18 and 11, which actually makes 29, but that's 27.8 here. So it's only, I don't know why this is here, right? While this is giving me a different number than that, but it's not that big of a difference. I wouldn't take it as a major discontinuity between the two. You have -8 gun depression. This gun handling on this is actually a lot better than the previous tanks. Because you see this goes to 0.38 dispersion with 2.3 seconds aim time. Same as this one. These are all fairly inaccurate tanks overall. Once you get to tier 8, 0.33 dispersion at 100 meters with 2.01 second aim time. That is actually relatively decent. You may also notice your DPM, 1877. That's because of your 8-second reload on 1 shell. 8 times 240 would be, that's 960 times 2, which is a 1920. Oh, it's 900, 900 is 1800. And then 6, no, yeah, that is 1920. What am I saying? So that seems a little low for me. But it's in that range, of course. Your armor, your turret armor's gone up, your whole armor on the front has gone down. Everything else is pretty much the same. Your hit points is at 1400, very respectable for the tier. Your specific power has actually gone up to just over 22. With a horsepower of 1,000. It's very respectable for tier 8. That'll get you around the battlefield very relatively quickly versus other tier 8 medium tanks. But the top speed is 60 kilometers an hour nonetheless. So that's nice. Moving to tier 9. What we have is basically a modified Leopard prototype. More something. You know, yeah. I'm not 100% sure on that, but we can read the vehicle details. This vehicle is one of the prototypes developed and built under the Camp Panzer standard program, which Italy joined since 1958, with the cooperation of this person, this person, this person, this person. Yeah, so after comprehensive trials, the prototypes of the A group were preferred over the other variants. Further work on which led to the production of the Leopard. Yeah, this is basically a version of the Leopard prototype. So when we go and look in the tech tree, we have a Leopard prototype A, right? Which looks like this. This is your Leopard prototype A. Here's your prototype B. Boom. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is not a complete clone of your German Tier 9. Huzzah! Okay. So, the one thing I noticed off the bat when I switched to this tank, your ammo has changed. It is no longer this AP and APCR, it is now APCR and heat, which means you have awesome shell velocity here, and the same penetration over distance again, like you did before it switched over to AP and APCR, somewhere in the mid-tiers here. Still 4 crew members, like I said. Your stats for auto-reloading have gone to 3.25 in between each shell with a 3-round clip and a full clip reload of 37.39. You have a damage per shot of 360 with a penetration of 268, which is very nice. The stock gun is basically the tier 8 gun, of course. Your first shell is 11 seconds, your second shell is 12, your third shell is 14. You can generally fill in those blanks of what happens there. Your gun depression has gone up again, or should I say down, to -10. Your mobility is about the same. Your engine power has actually gone down, funnily enough, but so has your weight. So I guess they figured we can use a lesser engine and still get a similar horsepower when they were first doing this tank, like historically. And then of course this is now modeled here. One thing I should also point out here, the view range on all these tanks, tier for tier, is fairly respectable. It's not much different than the average values of the tier. Same with concealment. You can put a camo crew on these things if you like. You'll probably get up to... Actually, let's find out. When we go to the tier 10, we'll find out. Here is your lovely tier 10. Progetto 65. Or the full name, Progetto M40 Mod 65. I never understood why they did this for this tank and for the premium tank, the Progetto 46, which I'm actually going to get to in just a bit, but why didn't they call it the Progetto M40? If it's the Project M40, but then it's modification from 1965, why not just call it the Progetto M40? Or the Progetto, what is this, M35, I believe it is? Why didn't they just call it that? That seems to make more sense to me, but I digress. Now, the main difference between the tier 9 and the tier 10 is it gets one more round in the clip. You have 4 rounds. 360 alpha damage still, 268 average pen, 10 seconds, 12 seconds, 13 seconds, and 15 seconds for each shell in the clip, with a total clip load of just under 50 seconds. Sounds like fun. Your gun impression is now -9 instead of -10. Big difference. I sort of feel like they could have just kept it at -10. I don't know why they didn't keep it there, or I don't know why they changed it. Doesn't make too much of a sense to me. Not that it makes too much of a difference either. I'm going to shut up now. Funnily enough, the dispersion at 100 meters and the aiming time, it's actually quite similar to the Tier 8. Still got the .33. The aiming time has gone up by .2. So you do have more damage per minute if you choose to fire round by round like this. One thing to note is that these tanks are definitely not based on damage per minute. It's very much not a Russian medium, because you load one 360 alpha damage shell in 10 seconds, whereas if I go out to my E50 per se, my E50M, it will load a 390 alpha damage shell in 8.28 seconds. So if the E50M has more DPM than the new Italian Tier 10, that's saying something, right? Alright, we'll go back and do this. 4 crew members, of course. I already went through all of this. Your survivability, your turret armor is now 120 millimeters. And I must say, unless these things are modeled, the only ways you're going to be penning this turret reliably is this right here, and maybe these patches right here where it's flat. Otherwise, these are probably all auto ricochets. Not auto ricochets, but the armor is sloped to the point of it will probably bounce on either side of this thing. Your frontal hull armor is a lot more slanted now. You've been noticing as we go forward in tier, this armor plate on the front just slowly gets more and more slanted. Where it's finally to here, and I'm not exactly sure what angle this is. It might actually be more than 70, which would mean that you need to overmatch it. Now the front of this whole armor is 50 millimeters, which would mean that only things 151 millimeters or more are going to overmatch this if it is more than 70 degrees from you. So that's going to be interesting. That's something that's not noticeable on any other tank in this whole tank line. 1900 hit points, very respectable for the tier, as we all know. Your specific power has gone down to 18.75. Your heroic power is still at 750, which is probably why, because your weight has gone up to 40 tons, so you fucking fat thing. You are very pretty, though. And one other thing I'd like to point out, look at how far back this turret goes. I actually just noticed this. Like, damn. Look, there's where the turret joins the tank, and then you have another length of turret behind it. It's like one length of turret, 2 lengths. And then of course you got your, little gas can and, travel bag shit on the back here. Yep, there's your tier 10 right there. Concealment, respectable. Spotting, 400 meter view range. Very nice, very nice. Top speed of 65. Very nice. Okay. While we're here, we've been looking at the crew members, of course, but one thing I do also want to look at, rental style Italy. So let's go custom style, camouflage. Here's your new camouflage patterns. For summer, it's this weird kind of blue and sort of orangey spotted color. And the other one here, which is probably my preferred one, is this really nice looking sort of teal and orangey brown. This is my first time looking at these, mind you. So you have white, and you also have white. Who would have thunk? White and white. Now, of course, this is the brighter white, but no, not that much of a fucking difference, okay? Now this is interesting. Okay, so we have this, with this lovely pattern here, and we have this thing as well. Oh, so this is like big and blocky, like it said, like it shows, and this one is more. Yeah, I definitely like this one better, to be honest. That one just looks nicer to me overall. Here, you know what? We applied that and that. Let's just purchase that, because I'll probably end up playing this tank on the test server a little bit. Your premium consumable is now spaghetti with the meat sauce, which, as pointed out to me in a YouTube comment section, is not actually an Italian dish. But, you know, whatever, man. It's served in Italian restaurants, therefore it's Italian, right? Okay. But I digress. The last thing that I want to do while I was here is take a look at the new premium tank. It's coming along with this line. It was revealed already once before, so this is not a completely new thing per se. But I figured I would show it off while I was here. This is the Progetto M35 Mod 46. Like I said, Progetto M35. Which for some reason they call it Progetto 46. This gets almost an identical gun to the Tier 8 current tank, like non-premium tank in the line. It doesn't get much more in the way of armor. The hit points are exactly the same. Specific power, I believe, is actually worse. The gun, as I said, is relatively the same. I was going to comment on something else, but I forgot what it was. This is still a 90 mil. This is -9 gun depression, of course. And 390 meter view range. Very nice, very nice. Also, this cow skull thing, that's fun. That's fun right there. There is a skin for this tank already out in Aslane's mod pack that adds a machine gun up here. Some of the side skirts have been shot off. The skull is removed. It's got, I believe, a bag on the side of the turret here as well. It's a very nice skin. I recommend you take a look at it if you're interested. Yep. And your crew, still 4 crew members. So you should be able to use your crew from the rest of the tanks in this tank. It's a fairly standard crew, by the way. There's no radio operator, so the commander is probably the radio operator, if I had to guess. This is currently on the live server for Mission Marathon, which you can find videos about online as well, but I can't access it in here, of course. And that's pretty much all I had wanted to say. The one other Italian-specific thing that's coming in 1.01 is the province map is actually returning. It's been enlarged. It's now suitable for Tier 10 gameplay, quote-unquote. You probably cannot see the opposite ridgeline from your own ridgeline like you were able to down at low tiers before. It's probably not in render distance anymore, which is how that is probably an actual playable map now. So, yeah, that's all I can really think of at the moment that I wanted to comment on. So, thank you guys for watching. I hope you have enjoyed the video. I hope it was informative and helped you guys learn about what's upcoming and new in World of Tanks. If you liked it, leave a like, comment, subscribe, etc., etc. All generic YouTube end of video comments. Blah, 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 blah. I will see you guys in the next video.